Welcome back. Leadership in the House considering a vote later this morning on the Senate budget framework for President Trump's big, beautiful bill. House Speaker Mike Johnson delayed the vote last night after the GOP rebels refused to support the legislation over not enough spending cuts. Speaker Johnson and Wisconsin Congressman Derek Van Orden reacting yesterday.
There's a very good, healthy spirit of cooperation and discussion, and I'm very optimistic that we are going to get this job done. And for all those in the media who doubt us, you continue to doubt us, and we continue to deliver, and we will again.
There is a small group, once again, in the Republican conference that thinks that they got 77 million votes and that they're the president of the United States. They're not. So the group of people that are holding up this bill are not doing this for ideological purposes. So absolutely baloney, and they need to get on board.
Texas Congressman Chip Roy, meanwhile, said the Senate's baseline of $4 billion in cuts is not enough. He wrote this on X. Don't let the media use a stock ticker like the coronavirus cases ticker. Don't bet against the USA. Now Congress must be bold and constrain spending. Debt and deficits are a curse from the swamp that must be vanquished. If we do that, true prosperity lies ahead, writes the congressman. Joining me now is Iowa Congresswoman Ashley Hinson, a member of the House Appropriations Committee. Congresswoman, how do you see things?
Well, Maria, good morning. For me, this was a very, very simple vote. This is about making sure that we're protecting the tax cuts that President Trump fought for so much in his first term and that the American people voted for. This is absolutely, Derek was right when he said 77 million Americans voted to move this agenda forward. And so that's exactly what we should be doing. I, of course, want to cut as much as we possibly can. And I think I agree with what the Senate has tried to do here, which is to set some baselines to move things forward. And that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be focused on trying to get the president's agenda done. No tax on tips, maybe expanding the child tax credit for working families and making sure our small businesses have the relief that they need.
Is it realistic to think that you can go back to pre-COVID spending?
Well, I certainly hope so. And you look at what DOJ has been able to do. I mean, the waste that they are finding, it's absolutely appalling as a taxpayer. And we should be having these very, very serious discussions about finding that waste, fraud, and abuse. I serve on the Appropriations Committee, and we are beginning our process for fiscal year 26. I'm hopeful that the DOJ team will come to us with some additional cuts that we're able to focus on, a rescissions package that we can maybe put into code as a complement to what's happening in this reconciliation package. But this is about not only making sure we're cutting taxes for working families, but this is about making sure we're making investments in places that we need to, the border and defense. And those are all priorities that we can accomplish if we're able to move this bill forward.
But I mean, practically speaking, when you look at the spending during COVID, the Democrats had this $7 trillion boondoggles over and over again, total of $7 trillion in spending. If you go back and look at where that spending is, why is it so difficult to remove the things that were put in place because of an emergency and go back to pre-COVID spending?
Right. And I think we're doing a lot of that. We saw a lot of these agencies that saw increases in their budgets by, in some cases, 30 to 40%. So, again, this is about right-sizing those agencies while still making reforms. And I think one of the key things I'm going to focus on is technology, right? We look at these agencies that have, in some cases, dozens of different systems that are meant to accomplish the same thing. These systems can't talk to each other. So, part of DOJ, what we've done in Iowa, for example, which I think is a great model for the country, our governor led on this by, simplifying the number of agencies, saving taxpayers, I think it was like $218 million in a year and a half. Now, multiply that kind of focus and then, again, move forward not only on just the reductions, but on the technology and process. And that's another way where you can find real savings for taxpayers.
Luke, I wonder how you feel about this, because, on the one hand, I understand the issues of $36 trillion in debt, and we need to have as much spending cuts as possible, like the House bill has put forth. On the other hand, you all have this one shot. The midterms are next year. Then there's the White House. If the Democrats take the majority and then a Democrat is in the White House, it's over. You don't have the Republican leadership, directing policy at all.
Yeah,
so why can't they just get together and unify on this?
It's highly unfortunate that Republicans seem to have a spiritual gift of screwing up a golden opportunity. And so my question is essentially, when the Republicans come to the table with the House Freedom Caucus members that are still holding out, is there a number that they have stated? Is there some figure they've thrown out that says the Senate is at billions, we want to get to trillions? Can they meet in the middle at any point? When you talk to your colleagues that are maybe holding out at this point, do they have anything that they say, if we get this, we're moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I think for them, it's, we just need to realize $1.5 trillion in cuts, however that looks. And that's the number I keep hearing them say. Okay. But my approach to this has really been, whatever the Senate number is, the House is going to write our bill. And that's where the power of negotiations happens. Our committees are already hard at work at doing this. We can write a bill that cuts to those numbers. And I think we're going to do that. We have a number of people who are very, very fiscally conservative. And I'm one of them, right? I want to see as much cut as possible while we're still making sure we're preserving key programs. And I agree with you, Maria. If we don't get this right, the House majority is at stake. And this is about beyond 2 years. We have a lot of reforms that we need to do to really turn this ship around. Right. You can't turn an aircraft carrier around in one day. It's going to take several years to do this. And so we can't let the second half of President Trump's term be with a Democrat Congress, because then we know it'll just be impeach, impeach, impeach.
Right. I mean, come on, guys, don't torpedo your one opportunity here. And then there's your colleague in the Senate, Adam Schiff, who has chosen to take insider trading charges out of the air and making these serious charges. He wants to know, and he says he's going to investigate if the White House officials tipped off, or were they tipped off, before President Trump's decision to pause retaliatory tariffs yesterday. Listen to his serious charge. Watch.
I'm writing to the White House to demand who knew in advance that the president was going to once again flip-flop on tariffs, and are people cashing in? There is just all too much opportunity for people in the White House and the administration to be insider trading.
So he's talking about cashing in, Congressman. About 5 hours before President Trump announced the pause, Trump posted this on Truth Social. Everyone, this is a great time to buy. And, of course, the president has been saying that from the get-go, saying, sure, we're going to have a period of disruption, but cool it. Things will be fine at the end of the day. But Adam Schiff is now making this charge. No comment whatsoever about whether anybody from the Biden family cashed in on all of our adversaries, as the Oversight Committee has charged.
Right. You know what? The good old adage I always grew up with was buy low, sell high, right? Yeah. And if you didn't sell, you didn't lose anything, and everything's on sale when the markets are low. And that's kind of the perspective I've always had when we ride out these ups and downs. And I think that's what the American people, I'm hopeful that they've learned from this challenge in the last week. But look, Adam Schiff, Senator Schiff, has made his career here out of fear-mongering and lies. And I think that they have literally nothing else to go on. They are standing in the way, again, of tax cuts for the American people. They're standing in the way of border security. Again, they're voting down policies that protect women's sports. They've completely lost their way, and they have nothing to run on. So again, it's just continuing to capitalize on this fear. What I'm focused on is, again, making sure that Americans can prosper. We can have every opportunity. Our Iowa producers have markets to sell their products to, and that is something that I know the Trump administration is laser focused on. But again, why we need to get this bill done today to move things forward, continue those conversations, so we can, enact the president's agenda, again, which 77 million people voted for.
By the way, has anyone, since we're on the subject, has anyone investigated or looked into the coincidence of Paul Pelosi buying several stocks right before they were the subject of either defense contracts or big legislation coming out, and sending those stocks higher? There is a coincidence there, isn't there? Like, for example, when Paul Pelosi bought Microsoft just weeks before the company was set to get a Defense Department contract.
Yeah. Well, something's wrong when there's a Twitter account devoted to your stock portfolio and what you buy, and making those recommendations to the American people. I think that is indicative of maybe some of what had happened with the Pelosi's. And I do think we need to take a look at that. When I got to Congress, one of the things I did, I was named to the Appropriations Committee. I wanted to send a very clear message to my constituents that I couldn't be bought and paid for. And so we actually my husband and I sold all of our individually publicly traded stocks. So that was something that I thought was really, really important to send that signal that I'm not going to do that. So I'm in mutual funds and ETFs, and I'm writing this out like the American people are, and I'm just focused on getting this job done and making decisions on policy that are going to help the American people to prosper the right way.
Well, Congresswoman, that was the right move. I mean, that was the appropriate move. To own ETFs and indexes as opposed to individual stocks. You are in a position that you have access to real inside information. So I applaud you, and that's why there are rules in the White House for the same thing. There are rules in media as well. So we get it. Congresswoman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.